things moved from friendly to a little bit more friendly.
Yeah.
And
I remember the exact text where things went from friendly to a little bit more friendly, and I'm not ashamed to say it was me. Do you remember the article?
No.
Why I wrote the article though?
No.
It was talking about the time we broke up.
Oh, that one.
Oh,
Bucket list.
Hello and welcome to Separate Bathrooms. We would like to acknowledge the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, the traditional custodians of this land, and pay our respects to the elders, both past and present. We are Ali and Datto.
We, the royal we.
I stole your name just
What?
Are you feeling like you want to own the show today or own the potty today?
there. No.
Okay, well, let's go. I just need to know while we set it up.
No, I just
As
thought
we do this.
I'd do something completely wild and crazy. Wasn't
How
that
good.
It was just wild.
It's a whole new thing.
Whole new thing.
After 200 episodes, we're doing something.
Yeah, I said we instead of I.
You claimed me.
Small bite-sized pieces.
It's kind of
honey.
sexy, actually. You claimed me.
There you go.
Right. Do you ever feel stuck?
Yes,
You see, you do?
Stuck
you
in
get
life?
stuck in life?
absolutely.
What do you do? Aside from being stuck? How do
I
you
think
get-
the first thing is to acknowledge that I feel stuck. I think that's the first thing, to just go, why do I feel so yucky or awful? And go, yeah, I'm feeling really stuck. And then keep asking questions. Why do I feel stuck? What's going on? Am I repeating something? What would make me feel unstuck? Oh, if I just went for a walk or if I went for a dance. Sometimes dancing really helps me feel unstuck. Bit of
It's a good answer. It's a
cardio.
really good answer.
Oh, great. Thanks.
Yeah.
How about you? How do you get unstuck if you're stuck?
Well, I think the first thing, yes, acknowledge, geez, I feel stuck. And then maybe just sit in it for a while. Allow myself to feel it and go,
Yeah.
all right, is this what I want to be, where I want to be? And then it usually starts with fresh air.
Yeah, fresh
air
air's a
and
biggie.
salt water, something, but just move and just go, okay, one step, another step, and just do it for half an hour, whatever it is.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and then see what, again, staying curious to what's happening. And then it's usually when I'm returning to the car or walking off the beach or something afterwards, I've done it and I've gone, nothing happened. And then if I pay attention to the last 5 minutes of that moment of going out and doing something, invariably the answer to whatever I'm looking for or, you know, some kind of a response or something like that happens. And so I always pay attention to the last 5 or 10 minutes of that moment when I take myself off for a bit of a breather.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
We're in the middle of winter here in Australia. I know we've got overseas listeners. They're in the heat of summer. We're in the cool of winter. A lot of us turn inwards in winter. We hibernate, ruminate about our lives. So we thought it'd be a great time to chat with author Danielle Colley.
Danielle is an integrative life coach, speaker, event facilitator, and writer. Now, for the past 5 years, she's been helping people who are feeling stuck.
Oh, what?
Crazy we just made that segue.
What?
And feeling dissatisfied with their lives and help them to reach their full potential.
Danielle also delivers leadership workshops for well-known brands that include Sony Pictures, F45 Fitness, the Leadership Institute, and Transport of New South Wales. She's got a new book coming out. We can chat about that. And she's bringing in her partner, Nic, who we know nothing about.
Correct.
Not a scarrick, as they say. So
Yes.
we're going to mine them for their story about how they navigate their relationship. We might learn something about what they know.
No doubt. Please welcome Danielle Colley and Nic Denham.
Welcome, Danielle and Nic, to the bathroom. How you guys feeling?
Good.
Good,
Thanks.
thank you. Excited to be here.
Nic, are you excited to be here?
Yeah, okay, I'm a little excited.
This is Nic's first podcast, listener. It's very exciting. Hey, we are a relationship podcast. Just bring us up to speed with who you are, each of you, and how long you've been together, that sort of stuff. Just in a nutshell, just so we're all on the same page.
Okay. We've been together for, well, this time, 10 years, but we have history. We were friends with benefits for a while, about 20 years ago. And we had a little bit of on again, off again kind of stuff. And then I went away and got married and had a couple of kids, got a mortgage, all of that. And we stayed in touch loosely.
Yep.
And then just as my marriage was ending, my first marriage was ending, Nic sent me an email and said, would you like to come to my 40th birthday? Would you and your husband was the invitation.
Yep.
And I said, well, I will, but he won't. And
Nick's
that's pretty
gone,
much
doors open.
Yeah, that's
No, I'm not an opportunist like that.
Were you with someone at the time for your
No.
40th? Oh, okay.
No.
Have you been married before?
No, I have not.
Wow, you've always held a flame for Danielle.
Yeah, seems that way.
Okay, so down into the juicy stuff. So take us back 20 years ago.
Yep.
You were this was Friends with Benefits time.
Well, a little bit before then, I was working in a restaurant with, he was a mate of mine, which is Preston, her boyfriend.
Yep.
And Danielle was working in a restaurant at the same time for my girlfriend at the time was her manager. And that's how we met.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we stayed in touch. There's a few things went sideways with Preston, but I stayed in touch over the years and things moved from friendly to a little bit more friendly.
Yeah.
And
I
then-
remember the exact text where things went from friendly to a little bit more friendly. And I'm not ashamed to say it was me. It was me who did it.
What did the text say?
I can't remember because we were always very platonic and friendly and nice, and it was just all above board.
Yep.
And I remember the day I was like, oh, should I do it? Should I start the flirt?
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm going to go for it. And I did. It was quite well received.
So what was it about each other that you really always remembered? What was it?
Well, I like her cheekiness. She always gives me heaps of jabs in the ribs. Yeah. And that hasn't changed.
Yep.
And so we always have a laugh. And so we're best friends. I'm going to hang out and having a nap on the bed in an afternoon and end up having a giggle. So that hasn't changed in 20 years. So that's the thing that's persisted.
Yeah.
There's a real ease. There's a real ease in our relationship. Even when there are tough moments, like we don't fight, we don't blow up. I've had a lot of really sort of volatile relationships or combative relationships, whereas we can communicate really, really easily with each other. And yeah, that humour, that it's always ever present humour, inappropriate.
And you are very much about play. That's something that you're a huge proponent of in life and probably in relationships as well. Is that what's a huge part of your relationship now?
I'd love to say yes, Ali. I really would, but we get in the grind like everybody else, you know,
In the trenches.
that sort of day to day with, you know, kids at school and two businesses and, you know, the day to day definitely becomes quite monotonous. So I think I have a big air of spontaneity. I do like to get out and about and do lots of stuff on the weekends. So I'd say I do drive variety and play.
Gets bored easily.
Quite.
You like shiny things.
I do.
I'm a bit like that
shiny
too.
Things, yeah.
Get
I
distracted?
do. Easily. Yeah. What's that? No, yeah, I do. But I also I feel like if I'm not doing stuff, then I'm kind of wasting time, which is, you know, I think a really big testament to society. Actually, I know I'm not alone on that because I, you know, work with people in my coaching business all the time who feel that same sort of thing. So being able to have, I think it's the combo of play and, of course, rest, being able to have the downtime, right?
Yes. I'm more of the resting type.
I'm with you, Nic. I love the rest, the quiet. Cam's the busy bee. You know, has trouble just sitting down and doing nothing unless football's on.
Sure. Well, that's not sitting down and doing nothing.
Yeah.
No,
actively
that's getting
participating.
internally hot. I was thinking this morning about that great quote that Mike Tyson said. I'd love to drill down on where that came from, but, you know, everyone has a plan until you get punched in the face, right? And then I was thinking Bob Dylan, he sings about the hard rain's going to fall. We all deal with life's ups and downs. I reckon success is how you bounce back from that. You got fired, Danielle, from a big job, and that's when things changed.
Yeah.
Have I got that right?
Yeah.
So how did you bounce back from, tell us a little bit about that big job. And Nic, were you in the picture as well during that time?
Yep.
Okay, great. So you can both sort of give us you.
So I had been in the grinder for a while before that job came along.
Hang on, what's the grinder? What do you mean?
The grinder on the treadmill, really like hammering hard to survive, always hustling, living on adrenaline and cortisol. I was a freelance writer. I was a solo mum, so Nic was on the scene, but we weren't living together. We were seeing each other every second weekend at that stage, which is all very romantic. But I was constantly sort of stressed about survival for myself and the kids. So that job offered me a sense of stability because it was working in a magazine. It was just a few days a week. And it gave me, I thought, credibility because I had been freelancing as a writer and I felt like an imposter and I was going to get found out at any moment.
Right. So the job was like a validation for you?
The job was absolutely. My identity had become really wrapped up in that job.
Yeah.
So when I lost the job, I really questioned my self-worth, my self-esteem really fell down. The way that the firing was handled was really bad as well because there was no communication around it. I was just told to go home.
Got ghosted.
Yeah, I got ghosted.
No way.
Yeah,
Really?
go home and await further news. And 3 weeks later, I was still trying to find out from people what was happening.
Terrible.
I don't want it to be a beat up on the publication because they went through some major changes. There were changes in management. Like for whatever reason, it happened, right? It was my reaction to it that has been a point of interest for me to see what I made it mean. I made it mean that I suck. So having to get myself from the place of feeling like I had nothing to offer and I was dispensable, it was very hard for me then to get back on the freelance kind of thing because it takes a lot of, as you both would know, it takes a lot of energy to be putting yourself out there all the time, coming up with the ideas, pitching to editors. And if you're coming from a space of self-esteem deficit, it's really, it's so hard. And fear, exactly, it's so hard to have the pump required. I don't think I did bounce back. I wouldn't say I bounced back. It was more of it's slow crawling on bleeding stumps.
That's an image.
I was still sort of pitching, feeling really bad, hoping I could get things going again. And I decided that I would take a little bit of time off to recalibrate. And that's when I got a call from my dad, and my dad actually had cancer and he had been given only months to live. So I decided to use my hiatus to go and spend some time with him and see if, I had an epiphany. I had this idea actually to create a wellbeing hub, like to repatriate all of my old health and wellbeing articles because I wrote so much in that space, health, wellbeing, relationships. Dad done hours of research with, so many different experts. So I thought if I take all of that information and create some kind of hub to help people who were feeling like me to feel, better, right? And I didn't have any real structure or idea around it. I just thought this is something that I could do. So I thought that while I was with my dad in New Zealand, I'd build this, new platform and it didn't happen. It didn't happen. I realised while I was there, I needed to just be there.
Yeah.
And Dad sort of died within a month of me being there. I packed the kids up. We went to his little remote place in the Bay of Islands, and I was fortunate enough to be able to walk him through that experience and be with him by his side. And that's when I really plunged after that experience of profound beauty, but also deep grief. I was pretty I was pretty lost, wasn't I, babe?
You were.
I spent a bit of time crying on the couch, a few months, I would say.
I mean, that's a huge double whammy. And as you said, your identity's just been stripped. You've lost the job, and now to lose a parent, in such that's a month is not long.
No.
Happened quickly.
When you look back on that time now, do you see it as it had to happen that way for you to be who you are today?
100%.
Yeah.
I even think that the entire journey, because my father and I had a complicated relationship. He wasn't around in my youth. He lived on a yacht and sailed around the world, which is a great adventure for a man. But that was in the era before mobile phones and technology, so he was gone for a lot of my childhood. And we became good friends in my 20s. So he was never a parental influence so much as a man who I always loved, and he was on the periphery of my life. And then he became a very strong support, in my 20s and throughout my life. It just got stronger. Our friendship got a lot stronger. So for me, it was like recognizing that the entire journey that we'd had together, when he wasn't there in my childhood, that formed a lot of beliefs that I had about myself. And all of those different things, because there's been a series of terrible choices in boyfriends and self-esteem issues and eating disorders and all of that sort of stuff that's all sort of so tightly wrapped up with those sort of parental relationships and things like that. So for me, I realised that every step of our life together was, I call it a sacred contract. I think that Dad had to be that guy so that I could become this woman.
Yeah. Beautiful. Wow. And Nic, where you've watched your, I guess, girlfriend at the time, you weren't married yet, just fall into the pit. How were you with all that?
It's hard because we're basically sitting on the sideline, and you can Danielle would share with me her inner thoughts. You can see the story going on in her head. But I'd seen her from when we first started seeing each other again, taking a mummy blog and a food blog and then turning it in, monetizing it, and then transforming it into, she transformed into becoming like a freelance writer, and then transforming once again into the life coach she is now. So for me, it was, typical guy trying to fix things, so that's not what it is. This is what it is. Yeah. But sitting on the sideline and just trying to go, have a look at, look, here's what you've done. You have done all these great things. These are all wins. But you've got to try and, if you can't look at it as a win at the moment, it's going to be very hard for you to move into the next stage of your life. Yeah. But you have to go through that, the grief process, and then also look at your identity again and try and figure out who you are, but what do you want to do? Because what you do isn't who you are. They're two different things, and we often get those confused together.
Did you know that 20 years ago, or is this something that you've learned along the way subsequently?
This only happened in the last 10 years, so...
We've been together for 10 years, just saying.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. All right. So I've done learning about stuffing things up many times myself, and then going, well, you've got to pick up your bat and ball and keep going. So, and also, I don't know, looking at it from trying to be pragmatic about it. It's not always the easiest way to look at things, but when you're on the outside looking in, it's easy to see all the individual components that you can consider wins in your life. But when you're in it yourself, and I know that feeling of the depth of despair, it's very hard to see out. You just feel like you're sinking. So I was just trying to be like a life raft on the side, and just and just be there for her.
Well, you guys should do a podcast called The Life Coach and the Life Raft.
I love that. but just hearing you say, like, you just being the life raft, that's exactly, he's never said that before. Not using that word, but it's actually it's giving me the feels, because he was exactly that. Like, there were many times I felt like I was kind of clinging. I was lost at sea. I was clinging, and you were just so rock steady, always so rock steady.
Yeah.
Just a realisation is that you can't make people change the way they feel. You've got to work through it. So patience, not one of my virtues, but with Danielle I have patience.
Yeah.
And a ton of empathy, apparently. Everyone else knows.
Danielle, you talk a lot about the hustle culture, and the two of you, we were talking off air before, have made a sea change out of Sydney. How has your life changed away from the idea of the hustle culture now that you understood it so much?
It's interesting because hustle culture is part sort of where you are, but it's also an intrinsic thing.
Yeah,
so
sure.
when I first moved to the beach, under the mountain, I was anticipating this sort of epiphany to just occur. And I remember going for a coffee with a friend and I said, it's still the same, you know. I'm still, as soon as the kids are out the door, I sit down at my desk, I'm working all day, they come home, I'm doing the runaround, doing the dinner time, and then I sit down and work some more. And she said, you know, the proximity, like where you live, isn't going to be the thing. Like nothing changes if you don't make changes. And I know,
Wherever
right?
you go, you are there.
Yeah, that's
everywhere
it.
you go, there you
That's
are.
it,
Yeah, I love it.
She said, because it's sacred land where we live, it's between two song lines, and it's magnificent. And she said, you know, you need to slow down and let the land tell you how you need to live here, but you've got to be quiet enough to listen.
Right.
And I have heeded that, and I've tried really hard to unwind and unravel all of that programming of the doing, and I have to be productive, and I have to be kicking goals, and I have to have all the ambition, and I have to be striving for those. And I think that ambition and goals and achievement, they're all awesome things, and they're really important for a human to have, that direction and that sense of satisfaction. It's the energy with which you do it. So trying to unravel my intrinsic urge to be on the go all the time and pushing and trying and struggling and all of that, to being able to go with a sense of ease and fun and play and curiosity, like, oh, let's try this. I wonder what happens, as opposed to like gripping on with your fingernails and like, you know, white knuckling it through the good stuff. You miss it because you're just constantly looking at the next thing.
Where do expectations fit in the hustle culture and stress, do you think, for both of you?
Expectations from internal or external?
Well, having expectations of all the doing. For me, anyway, it creates way more stress. It's work better for me to take away. Just do because I want to do it and have an intent to do something and lose the expectation of how it's supposed to be perceived or look or what rewards.
Is that a sense of control you're talking about? So if you don't get the outcome you've set your heart on, then you're not in control of it? I mean, is that really more of
It's
a
like the
control?
Well, I guess
success
it's
and the
being
failure.
in that acceptance.
Yeah, it's the
more.
judgment of whether something has worked or it hasn't worked.
Right, yeah.
I took up painting in COVID and I anticipated being awesome at it. And, and sad to say, I was not. And I found myself in the process of it being really set on the outcome. And when it wasn't that, because the messy middle in the creative process is always a bit hideous and hard to get through, when it wasn't that, I was hard on myself, I judged myself, and I wanted to quit. And I went into there's a Facebook group where the mentor, Tracy Verdugo, where you can communicate with her. She's since become a friend. She's amazing. I asked her, my captain, how do you enjoy the process? Because right now it's not fun. I'm supposed to be doing this for play and it just feels hard and I'm just judging everything that I do. And she said, I encourage people to approach it with a sense of curiosity. Like, I wonder what happens if I try this. I wonder what will happen if I put this here. I wonder what will happen if I do that. And I realized, Cam, that's the expectation, right? If we change the way we look at things and approach it from this, I wonder, you know, this sense of curiosity. I wonder what will happen if I do that. If I throw myself into this, I wonder how it'll go. It's good to have a sense of the outcome that you're moving towards. Otherwise, you're kind of like flailing around,
Correct.
right? So you have a sense of where you're going. But I think being able to sort of release the grip on what you think it should be, because sometimes where you end up is actually much better than where you thought you were going.
Well, and you don't know where you're going. So the curiosity is a huge piece of the puzzle.
It's the old, everyone's got a plan until you punch in the face.
Yeah.
It all goes out the window.
I'm constantly remembering and forgetting this thing that I think I'm genius every time I remember it again. Is that like painting or like when I learn something new? I'm exactly the same. I'm like, I'm going to be so good when I sing or I paint or do pottery. And then, you know, I talk to the teacher, the coach, and it's like, yeah, I've been doing it since I was 12 years old. And I'm like 54 thinking I'm going to be like you. And it's like, Ali, please take the expectation. You have to, if you want to put in the work and put in years, you might actually get to where she's at. But it's like taking that, as you were saying, the pressure, the experience of like what I think it's going to be, just to be able to go, I'm going to start something new and I'm going to be really crap at it at first.
Yeah.
And how cool is that?
Yeah.
That's totally fine.
Be okay with sucking at something.
I'm going to suck at it for a long time until I might actually get better. Who knows?
Yeah.
And I forget it all the time.
Yeah.
And then I remember it again.
You talked before about relaxing and how you're a master of relaxing. And
I wouldn't say I'm a master of relaxing.
I think relaxing is completely underrated.
Underrated, yeah.
It's important
You've got to
because
set yourself up for it. I found like now we've got a dog and we can go to the beach, and I found if I take my watch off and chuck my phone in the car with the watch, then I'm completely disconnected from the world and time, and I can only be in the moment. I can't communicate with anyone else other than the people on the beach. And I found that's a good way. Otherwise, we're like, you get an email. I can start thinking about work. And it's like the sun and the escarpment and the dog. And it's more important to take that time out. And if you can't, then remove those distractions.
Danielle, the hustle culture and the grind, you're asking the question, is it really worth it to do the hustle and the grind? Is it time that we take a different approach to it?
I think like the problem can be that when I say to people, getting out of the hustle and grind, the flip side of the coin is doing nothing or just chilling or watching, binge watching or, losing any of that sort of momentum or ambition. But I think that it's, as I said before, the energy with which you do stuff. So hustle and grind is that constant driving force, success at all costs. It doesn't matter that I'm exhausted or tired. I'm not listening to my body. I'm not paying attention to the red flags that I've, being waved because emotionally, physically, mentally, I'm under pressure, right? And it's okay to have times. We have times where like, okay, I'm under the pump. I really need to knuckle down and get things done. But it's when we've got that sort of prolonged push for a really long time that the wheels start to fall off. Yeah. So I think it's, to the antidote to the hustle and grind is to have your ambition, know where you're going and be able to do it with a sense of ease. It's the striving and the pushing and the hustling that's the problem, not the doing. So what that means in actuality is in your busy day, have moments of peace. I mean, you said before, Ali, it's just nice to sit there and do nothing, sit there and daydream. And you don't have to do it for an hour. You can do it for 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Bring your nervous system back to sort of a baseline after each little burst of energy and allow yourself like more space in the days, because we're just constantly cramming more and more doing into our days, and then our downtime is cramming more and more information into our faces because we've got that
social media telling you how crap you are.
Device in our hands, which I love. I love my phone. I'm not going to blaspheme the phone, but it's knowing that we can set ourselves up for holistic success, whole life success, with just a few simple tweaks on what we're already doing, which is just stop cramming so much in all the time.
Yeah.
Is that in your book? Do you tell us how to have the chocolate bar life?
I do. Yes, I do. It's so it's all about the balance of work, rest, and play.
Yeah.
So
sure.
the chocolate bar life is a play on the Mars bar.
Tell them about 800 Mars bars.
I saw that on Instagram.
I know.
You have to tell me.
Yeah.
Can I do? Yeah.
I met with Mars recently because of the chocolate bar life. I'm talking about this Mars bar philosophy that I have. And I met with Mars recently. And
Is he a person like Mr. Wonka?
So it's a family, yes.
Okay.
It is they're going into their 5th generation of the Mars family. It is still a family-run business.
Great.
It is now down, I think there was 3 kids and now it's down to the 2 of them. They sent me, I asked, how about a bit of merch for my book launches that are coming up? And I was thinking, a couple of 800 Mars bars landed in our gut. You should have seen the kids, very excited faces. But then hilariously, a couple of weeks ago, I was doing a keynote at the PKN Women in Packaging Awards, and I was talking to the VP actually of Amcor, who have done the new packaging for Mars, right? The new recycled paper packaging.
Oh, yeah.
And he noted that in my keynote, the image that I had just ripped from the internet was the old packaging plastic wrapper. And he mentioned it to me. So I sent him a cheeky message saying, hey, I'll do you a deal. Shoot me over an updated picture with the new packaging and I'll send you a book. And he thought I said, send me product. So he's sending me more Mars bars and more Snickers. So now, like,
Kids are going
if this gig doesn't work out for me, I'm just going to open up a chocolate shop. It's going to be great.
Local school.
Yeah, totally.
You also wrote an article called "The Bucket List That Saved My Relationship."
Oh gosh, you did go back through the archives.
Yes. Now, can you tell us how that came about? And I also want to hear from you, Nic, about this. Did you contribute to that article?
I contributed probably to the bucket list.
Yeah.
He supplied the bucket.
Yeah. I'm quite happy to do the same thing over and over again. I like routine and like the process. Danielle left after we've done it twice in a row, so I'm absolutely bored with this. My life sucks and we've got to do something else.
It's a nice balance, you two.
Yeah. So then it's like, okay, well, just get a list and write it all down, all the things we can do, so we never have to think about it on a weekend because it's like dinner time.
Do you remember the article?
No.
Why I wrote the article though?
No.
He was talking about the time we broke up.
Oh, that one. That bucket list. That's another bucket list.
When that's how the bucket list first came about. Do you remember? So we were together for 8 months maybe, and then we split for a little while. I was bored. I mean, there was a lot more to it. I was also going through a really messy breakup. Oh, not a super messy breakup, but it was. I felt messy internally, separating the home and the kids and all of that sort of stuff. I broke up with Nic and then maybe 12 weeks or something later, maybe a bit less. He says it was 6 weeks. I think it was a few more. But
It involved the cubby house.
I said, yeah.
So let me just get this straight a second. You broke up with Nic, but you're also dealing with the breakup prior to that. So you're dealing with 2 breakups.
Well, kind of. Like my first partner and I, my first husband and I, we had been separated for 8 or 9 months, but there's still, like, it's protracted.
With the kids involved, I'm sure it is.
It's protracted. Yeah. And, the house
the kids,
and getting the new routine. And then there's, like, dealing with that other person. Like, that's a whole thing, right? That's that is a whole energy unto its own. And so trying to sort of navigate that and keep my kids happy and healthy, paying a mortgage while a freelancer, I had a bit of stress going on. So there was that, and there was trying to navigate a new relationship. And I mean, I think emotionally I probably wasn't ready. I did go from one to the other like really quickly. So I think, probably wasn't quite in a great emotional position to commit.
Now you've broken up with Nic.
Yeah.
8 weeks later.
Yeah, 8 weeks later. Well, I had bought the kids this big cubby house on Gumtree because I was broke. It was Christmas. And the guy said, have you got a car big enough to pick it up? And I was like, how big can it be? I've got a station wagon. And he was like, no, I'll bring it over in my ute. So he dismantled this thing, brought it over.
That's corrugated iron roof.
Seriously,
serious
it was
cubby.
2 floors. It had a climbing thing, a climbing net, and a
Slippery dip.
it
Love
was
it.
epic.
I love that.
And when it got there, I was like, oh shit, like I can't do this. This is not a solo person job. And I didn't have anyone to ask. So I was like, oh, Nick,
Good old faithful, eh?
good old faithful. Do you think you could come over and help, while the kids are away? We'll get it up a couple of days before Christmas. And he came and as he was digging those holes, because that's what it required.
Let me see. He was digging the holes. His muscles were flexing.
Digging. No, he
He's got
wasn't.
a sweaty breath. The pick's going in there. He's grunting.
And
every time it went
absolutely.
in the ground. And
Absolutely.
you just went, oh, what am I doing?
Do you know? Pretty much, except it wasn't as like sort of pheromone-driven thing.
Was he drinking solo?
Of course, slamming it down quick. No, it was more. Look at the lengths that this guy will go to. Look at his commitment. Because those holes, they really did require big holes to be dug.
Crowbar
And
work.
it was that again, that sort of steadiness in him. So we got back together after the thing, but I said, I'm bored. We're like this married couple so early in our relationship. We're doing the same things. We can on the weekend, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to do this. It is boring. Let's create some variety and write a bucket list of things to do, right? And it's not necessarily, a bucket list of things to do before you die, but things to do before I die of boredom, because we do the same shit every weekend.
Yeah.
So we created 2 lists, one which was like a family list, one we could do with the kids, and one we could do with each other. And it wasn't, some of it was expensive, right? Go hot air ballooning, but some of it was like explore different beaches that we haven't been to within an X radius, It's just getting out of the
Humdrum.
Exploring new things. But the brain loves variety. My brain, my little ADHD brain, loves variety. So for us, it was being able to have this sort of collection of things that we could just dip our hand into and be like, what are we doing this weekend? Right, okay, let's get amongst it. So that definitely saved our relationship. I will have to admit, I think we're getting it. We've become a little bit complacent again. But also, we're 10 years older, and I don't mind.
Time for another bucket list.
Yeah. A bigger house.
Yeah, I actually really, really love that idea. Like, we've been married for together for 34 years. And
that's such a huge thing. Like it is. Yeah, you guys are like the poster. You're like the
I
poster
think a
kids
bucket list is
for.
great. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
So it'll be a bucket list to play golf every
40
course in
every
New
Sunday
South
afternoon,
Wales.
6-pack of 2Es.
this is going to be a great bucket list.
Yeah.
But I love the idea, like you could have your fantasy bucket list, which is like travel Europe or like you said, let's go visit other beaches. Let's go have Lebanese food, down the coast somewhere. I mean, just stuff that like is doable.
I love what you said, that our brains love new things.
Yeah.
And friends of mine they swam in every ocean pool in New South Wales.
Oh wow! See, that's cool.
They did that. I thought that's a
really cool.
great thing to do.
it.
They drove
that's your
down
weekend.
south and they'd go and they'd go back to all the places and they just went, where are all the ocean pools? Took photographs of all the ocean pools in New South Wales, and because we have they're
Heaps of them.
There's so
incredible,
many. I know. There's 5
beautiful.
just where we are, right?
Yeah.
Not swimming one of them.
Lucky. Nic, can you recall, I know this is sort of a big question, but can you recall a specific moment or experience in your relationship with Danielle that really strengthened your bond or changed like the course of your marriage? Was there one experience that you remember?
It's a rolling series of things. Like, it was obviously with getting back together, then meeting the kids. So that's a big moment. But then to New Zealand and was there when Richard, Daniel was nursing him and he passed away. And being there in just critical moments. And obviously getting married in New York was fun.
Oh, that's a good story.
Yeah, I was working in New York at the time, on and off. So this last stint was like 4 weeks, and I'd been doing it for 6 months, go over 2 weeks, come back for 2 weeks, and then it was getting really tiresome. And I said to my boss, I said, hey, can my I'm going for 4 weeks. The family's getting a bit upset with this, so I'm going to bring Danielle over. Can the company stump up for for accommodation? So they paid the accommodation and gave us like $250 a day stipend, which Danielle spent all of it. So, and I was at work and she was just tripping around Manhattan.
But it came about
It's an
because
easy thing to do in Manhattan.
I know, right?
Spend money.
But we were at a bar in somewhere
Mrs.
in
Palmer's, wasn't it?
Mrs. Palmer's
Yeah.
in Sydney, and marriage hadn't really been on the cards for us. We'd been together for probably 4 years, maybe 5,
Yeah.
and Nic just said out of the blue, the New York trip was planned, and Nic said out of the blue, wouldn't it be cool if we eloped in Central Park? And
So
I was
your
like,
brain went,
yeah. I was like, it
There's
would
some
be,
variation
it
for that
would be
bucket list.
so
That's
cool. Yeah, it would be super cool. And I said, don't think that is a proposal, buddy. Like that is not
Good
not
ask
going to
first.
cut it. And he proposed the next day on the beach. And that was rad. That was so fun.
Yeah.
Get a fancy dress, organise a photographer, get the kids all frocked up, and then send photos back to our family going, surprise!
So did you take the kids to New York?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah, they loved it.
Yeah.
On which beach were you on when you popped the question?
Was just
Ramsgate, actually.
Yeah,
So we used to live there.
Sailing club.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know exactly where that is. Yeah.
That's-
And then eloped in New York. That's so fun.
Much to my mum's chagrin.
Oh,
Did you do something
She's
back
never
here as
forgiven
well?
us.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
yes, we did. We had another ceremony, and we're
Yeah.
at where was it? In Guy Mere at the
Yeah,
Art
Hazelhurst
Gallery there.
Gallery.
Yeah,
Yeah.
nice. When did you know that you wanted that Danielle was the one for you, that you wanted to pop the question?
It's not something that ever really crossed my mind about popping the question. I always knew I wanted to be with her.
Yeah.
But it was
He didn't see himself as the marrying kind.
no. But Danielle had sort of dropped it in conversation one
I
time
did not.
in the kitchen. Yeah. Well, Denham, it's been like 3-4 years, and it's like, oh, she's talking about marriage. So I was like, and then they came up, and I was like, oh, this is a great opportunity. I can really get some brownie points here. So
Off you went.
and New York, well, I mean, take advantage of it, right?
Yeah.
And so the photos we have from the photographer are incredible. Like
Yeah,
all
no
of Central
doubt.
Park. Yeah, amazing. And then we went to Nobu for dinner after.
Oh, how lucky was De Niro there?
Yeah. No. It was on 57th Street, which they call Billionaires Row, that went up there with all the high rises.
Yeah.
Man, I felt financially violated after that dinner.
That was the honeymoon money spent on you.
I know
Yeah, we had
stopped in
2-minute
Hawaii,
noodles.
but,
You only got one little piece of that miso.
Yeah.
Well, the food was great. And then we stopped back in Hawaii for like 10 nights and Kauai
yeah.
on the honeymoon.
Yeah, that's where we had our honeymoon, actually.
Yeah, right.
Oh,
yeah.
There was
snap.
unfortunately a natural disaster that happened 2 days after we got there, and we were sequestered to our hotel for 3 or 4 days. Couldn't leave.
God.
That wasn't
As
so
the-
much.
as the
That wasn't
typhoon
such a bad
hit.
thing, though.
wow.
was it?
No,
That's
honeymoon.
Well,
Days on a
perfect.
honeymoon? Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah, these days we'd be like, no.
You would be.
Back then,
What are we going to do for 4 days?
Relaxing.
How was the transition to becoming a stepdad for you?
It hasn't been without its challenges.
Sure.
Yeah. I come from a split family and I had a stepdad my whole life as well. And so I look back at just the way he had just got to shoulder some of the responsibility and try just do your best to be stable, like for me, like being a rock,
Yeah.
Sometimes
Being a life raft?
Yeah, like that for Danielle, but for the
For
kids.
the kids too?
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
like being
sometimes.
straight and not straight and narrow, but like this is wrong and this is right, and sometimes my what I see as the what do you call it, straight and narrow road, the path to walk is somewhat a bit too straight and narrow sometimes. When
Our
you say
parenting styles
Those are
differ.
very- yes.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. And I think it's doubly hard for Nic as well because our parenting styles differ and they're my kids.
Yeah, sure.
So it's not like I would ever pull rank and be like, well, they're my kids.
you don't
it's-
need to say that.
Yeah, it's just kind of there is always just this knowing, even with the kids. It's and that in itself is a problem, Sometimes I don't back Nic enough and the kids know that. Sometimes Nic, I think, is not as
Flexible, probably.
flexible or maybe even as warm as he would be if they were his biological kids, even
Yeah.
though he's been with them since they were 2 and 4.
It's understandable.
There is a different dynamic.
Yeah.
There really is. So it is a sort of constant conversation and negotiation.
Sure.
But we're all good at communicating, I think.
Well, they haven't told me they hate me yet, so that's a good thing.
What are some strategies there for communicating, for one with the kids and also for you two as in a relationship?
The strategy really is it's just open. And if we need to have, like, say, call a time and get everyone to sit down and make a point at the dinner table, for instance, and we can do those. We don't have to do that often. Danielle and I are very open communicators, so it's just, I love it. We just wake up first thing in the morning out of bed and we're talking about parenting. It's just like,
Let me wake up first. I haven't had a coffee.
Yeah, but I don't even think we sit like have a strategic session on how we're going to parent the kids this way. The kids are happy and doing well at school. No one's breaking the law yet, so we don't have any real major struggles. I think in terms of that, other than do the washing, put your washing in the washing basket, fold your washing, the normal stuff that everyone has an issue with, and then getting the sass and the talk back.
Yeah,
every now and then we'll have a flurry, so we'll butt heads as a family over something multiple times, and then Nic will be like, what we're doing isn't working, let's do whatever, like a parenting course, let's read this book, whatever. And we'll start something, learn one thing from it, try that for a minute, get distracted, go back to our old ways, and then and it's like, but every now and then we're like, right, we're gonna change up how we're doing things. Ultimately, I think we're doing okay, right? The kids are doing good. We're doing good. Nobody's too wayward. It would be good if they could put their socks and stuff away, though. Like, if they just leave it like that.
They're biological kids for both of us, and they still don't put their socks away. So that's certainly that's a universal.
It's the wet bath
the
towels.
wet towels on the floor, on the bed.
Piss on it, and then you go, I'll just chuck it in the bedroom and
For
go.
some reason, the cat loves to pee on the wet towels on the floor. So I'm like, this is what happens, kids. If you leave your wet towel on the floor, the cat pees on it.
These are just life lessons that they need to learn along the way,
And we've had many a couple with who, one or the other's become a step parent, and not a single one has said smooth as silk. Not a single one. It's all been a work in progress, really hard at the start, good now. But saw a therapist, did that, did a every single one, right? It's always been it's been tricky at times. And I think from what you were saying, just finding that balance of, particularly with the rules and the parenting, it's a fine line to walk.
It's that thing where on Instagram everything looks flashy and fabulous, and that's what we want to look at. We don't really want to look at the gritty stuff, but it's good to know that we're all navigating difficulty. It's challenging and it's sometimes really hard.
I take great delight in seeing other parents down the beach and screaming at their kids. I'm like,
it's not just us.
We do a 2-minute shower. We ask you to keep your answers short.
Sure.
I know it's been raining a lot at Wollongong. We're not into so much water conservation right now. We have a lot of it. Here's the first question. What about your relationship makes you feel the most grateful?
Danielle's very caring and nurturing, and I know that she's always got my back.
I would say humour, and he listens and tries. I want to expand on that, but it's a short answer only. I listen. No, that it sounds really bad, but when I try hard, he tries so hard. When I say something to him or we communicate, and I'm like, this is how I'm feeling, this is what's happening. He listens, and then he tries to not make me feel that. Right?
Yeah,
I like that.
What the world needs more of is
listening.
Yeah, I was going to say that, and probably empathy, because I'm coming from a point of lack of. And so, I'd say.
Yeah.
What does your perfect day look like?
Well, that's easy. Get up, go to the beach with the dog, come back, have a workout, chill in the pool, do some work, dinner, barbecue preferably, steak, and then bed.
He's a simple man. He's a simple man.
Nice to keep things simple. Clear.
Yeah.
I'm so for me, the days when I think it's a perfect day is when I've had all of the different things satisfied. So I will have a sleep in, which is 7 o'clock, sleep in, walk at the beach, maybe a pastry on the beach, then go and do something go for a hike, come and do some art, then spend some time with some friends, and bed by 9 o'clock. Like, oh, that's so good.
So old.
I like it. All right, last question. One word to describe each other.
Fun.
One word. I've got so many going through my brain. Reliable.
Yeah, that's awesome.
What's your one word? What would you? What? This is a good one. What's one word you would use to describe
For
each
Al?
other? Yeah.
No one's ever turned the table on us.
Sorry about that,
I'm getting
guys.
stressed. Your
mouth went dry then.
My armpits are starting to explode.
I could see that. I was like, whoa. Actually, I felt the same thing. I was like,
I know. Kind.
Nice.
That's a good one.
I really related when you were saying about Nic about trying hard, and it's not the right
Cam's
word.
a try hard too.
Yeah, he's really like the same thing. He listens, and then he really loves to make me happy. So I don't know what that word is, but I was thinking conscientious, but that's not right. But yeah, you like to make me
We have
happy.
a dog called Curly. Who is just he tries really hard. He just tries hard to be a good dog, and he just
does.
messes up.
Yeah.
He'll nip someone's heel on a walk,
Yeah.
or he'll be like, "Oh,
Because his
Curly."
anxiety gets the better of
Yeah,
him.
and you go on his. We're all gonna die, and Curly will die. But on his stone, it will be like, "Good boy, Curly. You tried really hard."
Yeah.
You know, and I do feel a bit like.
Have you just
Curly.
written your own epitaph?
I'll put that on yours.
tried
Boy,
really
Cam.
hard,
You tried
man.
really hard.
All right, well, you've written your own book, Danielle Colley, The Chocolate Bar Life. It's out now in stores.
Yep.
Yes.
It's
chock full of goodness,
there
I
you
would
go.
say. Lots
No,
of
I like what
information,
you did.
how to live a chocolate bar life. I think it's awesome.
Sweet. You guys
Delicious.
are fantastic. Thank you for being with us in the
Thank
bathroom
you.
Thank
today.
you for
Nick,
having
thanks,
us.
Danielle.
Danielle and Nic.
How great was that? We've just been left with a bunch of the Mars bars that Danielle was given, and there's a little tag on the end with a QR code. I'm like, what's the QR code? So the QR code takes us to her website, and there's actually a program you can do related to the chocolate bar life. So how you can live the chocolate bar life. So you can actually get on board and not only read the book, but do an actual program to help you lead that kind of a life as well.
And we get to enjoy a chocolate bar on the way
My
home.
mouth
it's not
is
gonna last very
watering. I
long.
know. I was thinking how much I wanted a Mars bar when we were talking about them earlier.
And I imagine our listeners sitting there right now going, bloody buggery, I'm pulling over and I'm going to 7-Eleven. I'm going to buy 3 Mars bars.
In the new recycle
In their new packaging.
That's right. Well, that was really, really lovely. Nic, who knew?
Nic.
I know. So much wisdom.
So still,
Yes.
calm,
Salt of the
relaxed.
earth, as they say.
Yeah, kept it simple. I love that he said I leave my watch and my phone in the car
Yeah.
and go head down to the beach
Yes.
with the dog.
Old
And-
school.
Old school, man. It's so
Which
good.
it shouldn't be old school, but it is, unfortunately.
Yeah, but just uncontactable. The way you used to be on an aeroplane.
Yeah.
Now you're not.
Yeah, that's right.
But you know, it's just lovely to give yourself that peace and time. The other thing I really liked what Danielle was talking about was asking that question, I wonder, being curious about, I wonder what would happen if we do this. I wonder what would, and be open to that scenario rather than just follow the same old, same old.
And I love that that's just like a little tool, but so easy to do.
Yes.
You know what I mean? We're not changing the world and our lives and giving up everything. It's like just adding one little question in here or a little change there. It's just those bite-sized steps that can actually get you out of that grind.
You said bite size.
I
Like
did
a chocolate bar.
Like a what?
So my mouth is watering.
All right, we better go.
Bite size.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Hope you enjoy, and make sure you check out the Chocolate Bar Life.